Hello, my name is Victoria Seed, and I am coming to you from Manchester in the UK from the Vesta Approach. And I help professional women and business owners and some retired people as well to live their most happy and peaceful lives, even though they are living with their loved ones problematic alcohol, drug use, and sometimes gambling as well. And I want to help you too. And every week I do a live session like this one about a topic related to addiction and family recovery. So if you're watching, if you want to comment, please pop any comments, thoughts, feelings, and reflections in there. And also, before I start, I just wanted to say I do have a Facebook community called Not My Addiction. So please head over and join us in there. This is a community for people just like you who are living with a loved one's addiction but want to live their lives and have the best chance possible of motivating their loved ones to make a change. So hopefully I will see you in there, and please pass this on to anybody who might need it. All right, so what are we talking about today? I really wanted to focus on the 6 strategies really that are unlikely to stop your loved one's addiction. So I have worked with hundreds, probably thousands, well, definitely thousands of people over the years who are either having problems with their own substance use, who are children of people who use substances, who are carers. And obviously now I do the work I do mainly with women who are living with somebody else's addiction. So I've learned a lot over the years and through my ongoing training and development of helping the people the best way I can. There are certain things that do not work. And I don't want you, as somebody living in this situation, to keep doing these things that are probably not going to work. So let's have a look at this then. The first one I wanted to talk about was waiting for your loved one to change. So in my training, I know that some people sometimes can have what we call spontaneous recovery, and they might just wake up one day and be like, all right, I've absolutely had enough of this. I'm going to change. That's it. Is that likely to happen with your loved one? You tell me. You're the person that knows how long this has been going on for, how long the problem's been happening, and all of that. So the question really I'm going to ask you is, how long are you willing to wait? Because some people never change. And we can't gauge it. We can gauge things on past attempts, how long people have changed, what's worked for people, but just sitting and doing nothing is not something I would recommend for you, for any of my clients, because there's always something you can be doing. Okay. So waiting for a loved one to change is probably not going to make much of a difference. If you and as always, I always say, if you can't change the other person, which you can't really, you got to work on yourself. And that isn't to say you're doing anything wrong, but as a bare minimum, I would be expecting and hoping that you would be willing to make changes for you so that you can either live alongside that addiction or problem, or you decide not to live alongside that, or you put your energy into you and helping your loved one to motivate them to change. So whichever path you want to go down, just do something. Okay. Guilt. So a lot of my clients have guilt that, they can't help their loved one to change, whether it's a partner. I get a lot of mums, particularly with adult sons, mainly with sons, some daughters as well. But obviously in that then there's mum guilt, there's guilt around, is it my parenting? Is it me? And all these questions. And listen, you are not responsible for the choices that your loved one is making. Yes, we know that there's a connection between trauma and addiction. But it's not your fault. It never is. It never is. As parents, we're all going to make mistakes. We all have our own difficult times to get through, and that's probably going to impact on our children in some way. But don't carry around the guilt of this being your fault, because it isn't. Okay. And the important thing is that we make some changes now, and help yourself. And if you want to, help your loved one through the changes that they need to make now. And sometimes, that might include owning up to, listen, I made some mistakes when I was bringing you up, or listen, I've made some mistakes in our relationship, because taking ownership and responsibility of that stuff is the way forward, but sitting in guilt isn't. And if you got to ask yourself, are you helping somebody because you truly want to help them and you love them, or is the guilt driving that help? Because if guilt's driving it, you're probably running yourself into the ground, aren't you? So if you're that person, listen, I offer free consultations. Get on the phone to me and have a chat, and I'll see how I can help you and what I can recommend. Okay, but don't sit with the guilt, and let that drive your decisions, because that isn't helpful. Pleading and begging. So you've probably all done this, pleading and begging. And in a lot of my training, we talk about nagging and begging and pleading. But think about being on the receiving end when perhaps people have done that to you. How has that felt? You probably, I don't know, when people have done this to me, I probably lose a little bit of respect for them. And this isn't talking about any of my clients. This is me and my experience of it, and me doing that when I've done that in the past, because I have, in a relationship I was in, begging and pleading for somebody to change. And I was giving away my power and my energy. So I wouldn't recommend that you use this strategy. It's perfectly reasonable to tell someone how you feel, and that you feel sad, and that you don't know where to go with this. That's okay. You're talking about your feelings, but pleading and begging for somebody to change, I don't think it has that much success in my experience. And you're giving away your power and your energy to the other person. You're saying to that other person, I can only feel better if you change. And that isn't true, because you can make yourself feel better if you change. Okay. What about sulking, sliding, ignoring, slamming around, passive aggressive kind of approach? That doesn't usually work. And the reason why that doesn't work is because you're not getting your needs met. You're not asking, you're not being specific, and the other person isn't either. So that kind of behavior is literally going to work for nobody. And the previous behavior that we just looked at, the pleading, the begging, the guilt, the waiting, that's too passive. So you're not getting your needs met, and the other person's just doing whatever they want. So we've got to find the balance. So begging, sulking, slamming things about, all of that stuff, which we probably all do at some point. I think I've done it this weekend. If we're using that as our main strategy, a lot of the time it's not going to work. It's not really a strategy, is it? You're just kind of not doing anything except storming about and not saying anything. So we need to be getting to a point where we're asking for what we need. So that doesn't work either. The passive aggression. What about shouting? Shouting, does that work? Think about the times that you've been shouted at by somebody else. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel unsafe? Does it make you feel like you can trust the other person? Does it make you feel like you want to do what this other person is asking of you, or demanding from you? Because I don't think that you do. And I don't think I've felt like that when I've been shouted at. So therefore, we can probably pretty much guarantee that shouting isn't going to work. Now, I'm not saying that if you are shouting that you're doing anything wrong, because again, when we have those strong emotional feelings, we need an outlet, but we've got to find that outlet in a healthy way. So shouting doesn't work either. And lastly, I just wanted to talk about ultimatums. So ultimatums is where we are making a demand of somebody or something is going to happen. So again, you know, when we have experienced that, does it work? Because it feels like somebody else is making a decision for us. It's probably going to get our back up. And really, with the clients that I help, they never follow through with the ultimatum. They never follow through with it or else, or that if you do this, I'm going to do this. So therefore, it's totally worthless. And your loved one is going to know exactly how to get around that. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to believe what you say. So the trust is affected again. You know, so we've got to find another way of doing this stuff, which is what we do in the work that I do with clients. So let's just have a recap then. Waiting to do nothing, stop doing that. Feeling guilty and driving your decisions through that guilt, that doesn't work. Pleading, begging, crying, all of that stuff, none of it's wrong, by the way. None of this is right or wrong, but it's probably not going to have that much of an impact on your loved one. Passive aggression, sulking, slamming around. No, that's not going to work either. Shouting, screaming, yelling, that's not going to work. It's just going to give the other person an excuse more than anything to go and use the substance. And ultimatums don't work because you're not following them through anyway. The ultimatum is too big. You know, if you do this, you can't live here anymore. And then they do. And then it's like, well, I can do what I want. So really, the message here is doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result, which is no change, isn't worth it. So please, 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 please come into the Facebook group and message me, DM me to have a friendly chat about your situation and how I can help. And I will see you next week. Thank you for watching.